You've done everything right, played by the rules, smiled when it mattered, followed the path laid out for you like a map to a life well lived. But tell me, why does it still feel hollow? There's a voice inside you, faint but persistent, asking, is this all there is? Not because you're ungrateful, not because you're broken, but because somewhere along the way you became a copy, a reflection of what others wanted. You've been molded by parents, schools, algorithms, ideals, and slowly, imperceptibly, you've drifted from who you might have been. Nietzsche saw this long before you did. He didn't ask you to express yourself. He dared you to become yourself, not through comfort, but through fire. Become who you are, he said, but not as affirmation, as command, as battle cry. This is not about finding your authentic self. That's a myth, because the real you has never existed as a finished product. You are not a treasure to uncover. You are a force to forge. And forging hurts. The life you've built? It might be the very thing that's preventing your becoming. Every truth you cling to, every label you wear, every goal you inherited instead of choosing. All of it might be the scaffolding that needs to fall. So ask yourself, who would you be without the praise, the guilt, the fear of rejection? Could you face the version of you that isn't polite, predictable, or safe? You say you want to be free, but freedom requires overcoming. Not the world, but yourself. Are you ready to begin? Or will you keep decorating a cage and calling it home? Self-overcoming begins when you recognize the invisible strings and decide to cut them. But first, you must see them. You must see how your comfort was curated, how your ambition was outsourced, how your fears were taught to you like lullabies. Only then can you begin, because what controls you in secret owns you completely. You think you're choosing your life, your goals, your beliefs, your identity. But look closer. How many of those choices are truly yours? From childhood, you've been trained to seek approval. Praise becomes the currency of your value. You learn to suppress discomfort, silence anger, dilute your uniqueness, just enough to be accepted. Society rewards predictability, not authenticity. It praises obedience, not transformation. And so, bit by bit, you build a self that can survive in this world. A self that fits, that pleases, that follows. But Nietzsche called this version of you a ghost, a shadow of your potential. Because behind every compromise lies a quiet surrender. What you call you may be nothing more than an internalized consensus. The hidden dynamic is this: you were not taught to become. You were taught to behave. And behavior isn't becoming, it's conditioning. Education shaped your mind into a machine of answers, not questions. Religion offered certainty, not inner truth. Culture gave you templates: how to look, how to love, how to live. You inherited values without ever holding them to the light. And here's the dangerous part. You mistake this programming for personality. But Nietzsche knew, if you don't confront what shaped you, it will continue to shape you without your consent. You may feel stuck, numb, unfulfilled, not because you're weak, but because you're over-adapted. You've learned to survive in systems that were never built for your becoming. Self-overcoming begins when you recognize the invisible strings and decide to cut them. But first, you must see them. You must see how your comfort was curated, how your ambition was outsourced, how your fears were taught to you like lullabies. Only then can you begin, because what controls you in secret owns you completely. You might not notice it at first. After all, the erosion of self doesn't happen in a single moment. It happens silently, over years, through small choices, quiet hesitations, deferred dreams. And then one day, you wake up and realize you've become someone you never consciously chose to be. What happens when you live without becoming? You begin to feel restless, yet directionless. You check your phone dozens of times a day, not out of need, but to escape the discomfort of stillness. You chase goals that don't fulfill you, relationships that don't challenge you, pleasures that don't nourish you. You fear solitude, not because you're alone, but because in solitude, you're finally forced to meet yourself. And the self you meet feels unfamiliar. That is the cost of a life unlived. Nietzsche understood this existential decay. He saw that when you suppress your inner chaos to maintain control, you don't eliminate it, you internalize it. And that repressed force turns inward as apathy, anxiety, addiction, even self-hatred. He called it resentment, the slow poisoning of the spirit when its power is denied expression. And here's the twist. You might be praised for this self-denial. You might be seen as responsible, polite, humble. But beneath the surface, your soul is suffocating. Worse still, this state spreads. A society of unfulfilled individuals creates systems that reflect their disconnection, workplaces that drain, media that distracts, institutions that pacify. You become both the prisoner and the guard of your own unrealized potential. And perhaps the most tragic impact? You lose the ability to imagine another way. You confuse resignation with wisdom, numbness with peace. But deep inside, something still pulses. Not a voice, a force, untamed, unexplored, waiting for you to stop living someone else's idea of a life. Waiting for you to reclaim the path you abandoned the moment you chose comfort over confrontation. You were taught to seek answers. Nietzsche taught you to seek confrontation, not with others, but with yourself. He didn't offer comfort. He offered a mirror. Because what if your discomfort isn't a problem to be solved, but a signal to be followed? The anxiety you feel, the dissatisfaction, the quiet ache that nothing quite fits. It's not failure. It's the first sign of awakening. A call to dismantle the life built on borrowed values and step into the storm of your own becoming. This is where Nietzsche's idea of the Übermensch, the overman, enters. It's not about superiority, it's about transcendence, not over others, over your former self. The Overman is the one who breaks the cycle of imitation, who refuses to inherit meaning and instead creates it, who embraces their inner contradictions, not as flaws, but as raw material, who understands that true freedom isn't found in safety, but in the dangerous act of self-creation. You don't need more affirmation. You need a philosophy that shatters the shell you've mistaken for a self. And Nietzsche gives it to you, not as doctrine, but as fire. He asks, can you burn through what you were conditioned to be and emerge not purified, but forged? Here's the radical shift. Stop asking, who am I? Start asking, what am I becoming? And what must I overcome to get there? You are not fixed. You are flux, not a noun, a verb, a becoming. The world wants you tame. Nietzsche wanted you wild, not chaotic, but whole, not controlled, but conscious. So the next time you feel the urge to escape yourself, don't. Stay in the fire. That's where the real transformation happens. You've looked in the mirror. You've seen the fragments, the patterns, the cracks in the life you thought was yours. Now comes the hardest part. Integration. Not the search for a new identity, but the daily act of becoming. Nietzsche never promised you clarity. He offered courage. The courage to live without guarantees, to walk without a map, to write your own code, knowing it might be torn down again tomorrow. Self-overcoming is not a single act. It's a rhythm, a discipline, a constant refusal to stagnate. You will be tempted again and again to return to the comfort of consensus, to soften your edges, to shrink to fit the spaces others have made for you. Don't, because becoming who you are will cost you the version of you that was easy to love. You might lose friends who only knew the old you. You might terrify the parts of yourself that crave approval. You will walk through moments of doubt so thick, you'll wonder if this path leads anywhere at all. But keep walking. You are not here to be understood. You are here to become undeniable. And in that becoming, you will uncover something rare. Not happiness, not perfection, but wholeness. The kind that can hold darkness and light in the same breath. The kind that doesn't flinch from contradiction. The kind that no longer needs permission to exist. Nietzsche's challenge isn't theoretical, it's personal. Live as if your soul were sculpting itself with every choice. Speak as if your voice could awaken the part of someone else still asleep. Act as if the future of your life depends on your refusal to be small. Because it does. Now ask yourself, truly, are you ready to become who you are? Or will you keep pretending that you already have?